Welcome to the channel, guys. Well, today what we're going to be doing is working on the old $800 Trailblazer. Yep, a year later, she's still going. She got a slight knock in her, but for 800 bucks, I can't beat it. It's paid for itself about 3 or 4 times. One of the things I did do to it, probably 2 weeks ago, replaced this shroud here. The old one was busted up and everything, and I had some minor overheating problems. That took care of some of it, but I'm still, after it warms up, this clutch fan down here, it's electronic. We got a problem with it. I think it's wore out. When I first start this thing up in the morning, it sounds like a jet. It sounds like a 747. It's just blowing all kind of air. Then when it warms up, it should be doing the opposite. It should be sounding like a 747. It should be blowing a lot of air through it after this thing warms up. And this is typical when you first start in the morning. If you hear that sound, then you know you probably have a clutch fan problem. If you're sitting in traffic with your air conditioner on, you notice the temperature gauge slightly going up a little bit. This here could be a problem. There's the new one in the box over there. We're going to take it out back, but what I'm going to do now, the engine's cold. We're going to start this up, and I'm going to give you a quick listen to it. Hopefully I can catch it just in time as I start it up. It sounds really loud. It just makes this roar when you go to take off. Then after, like I said, after it warms up, it doesn't even work at all. So here we go, cold start. I think you can hear it there. Of course, today it's not doing it. You'll figure, well, you know why? It's probably 90 degrees out here right now. But you can see it's turning. If I can give it a little throttle, it might actually do it. Let's see. It's probably going to make a liar out of me today. It's not doing it now. The other thing is, I don't have any check engine lights on for the code that says that clutch fan, electronic clutch fan is bad. Sometimes you'll get those codes. I'll put a code up here right about there when you do get them. So I guess it's not going to do it now, but let me shut it off real quick. Go back out here, and now when your car warms up and everything, what should happen is the computer should send a signal down this wire here, down to this electronic clutch fan, and should kind of lock this up. And when it locks it up, it turns this a lot faster and draws more air through the radiator and through this guy right here that I just replaced not long ago, the shroud. Now in the morning when you start it, it just does the opposite. It doesn't really spin the fan that much because the engine, it wants the engine to warm up first, and then it starts to sending the signal through the wire here and down to this clutch fan, in a nutshell basically. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull this out back, and we're going to go ahead and change this out. And I would like to have a new one on here anyway, because I just got a feeling this one here is probably causing the rest of my problems. All right, let's take her out back. All right, so we got the vehicle around back, and I'm trying not to let it get too warm, although also my RPM gauge has never worked. I've tried to fix it, but I think I need a new cluster. But anyway, it didn't make that jet sound. And one other thing here that makes me very suspicious is, see that fan? It's still spinning. Shouldn't be doing that even when it's warm. This should have some resistance on it, but look how easy that is to spin. When it's warmed up a little bit, it should have resistance on it. And here is the new one. Even this one, when it's cold, it has a little resistance on it. So I really think this is bad on that. So we're going to change this out anyway. It's just for good measure. And this one here, I don't think... I can't tell much about it. It looks like it's fairly new, but these things can go bad, so let's go ahead and change this out anyway. All right, a couple things here we got to do. Of course, we got the hood propped up here. Wish that prop was on the other side, but we'll work around it. We got to go ahead and hook this plug right here. All right, get that out of the way. And right here where this plug comes up, the wiring harness from this clutch fan, we got 2 little tabs here that we have to pull loose, and don't lose these because you got kind of need these later. There's one on the bottom. I don't know if I'll have to put the camera down to get that one. Alright, well, at least we got this loose from the shroud. The pin, the little plastic pin right there, I don't know if you can see that. It's still in there. It's not going to fall out. We'll deal with that when we get this out. Alright, so that's loose there. Now, if you don't have a clutch fan tool that goes on this big nut right here, what I typically do is use a big old crescent wrench, just like this. Just like this. And this one is actually slightly bent. I think I bent it for a project. I have a bunch of these. But the idea is, this thing wide open, there's just enough room to get that on that nut right there. See that? And the next thing you want to do is get your tire iron like this. Now, before you do this, there is a sensor right here. Make sure you don't hit that or break it. What I typically do is take a tire iron and put it right there below the clutch pulley, on the crank pulley, and just put a little pressure, pull up a little bit on it. You don't, it doesn't have to be a lot, but you can see how close you are to that sensor there. Just be aware of that. And I'll have to set the camera up here and show you. I'll take a hammer and I tap this counterclockwise to the left, and it usually breaks this loose. Now, if you have some tool that will fit on here, they're anywhere from $60 to $100. I have some tools, but I don't have one that fits the Trailblazer. I have one for a Ford, but this is one way you can do it. So I'll have to set my camera up here on a temporary tripod on myself with my cell phone, and you can watch me break this loose. Alright, so we're kind of set up there. There's my wrench, and I'll have to put my gloves on. I've got my little hammer here, and if you have another guy with you or someone to help you, it makes it a little bit easier, but you can still do this with one person. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this where it's a better angle. I'm going to take my left hand, kind of pull up on this, put a little pressure on that water pump, not a lot, and take our hammer and we'll hit this to the left a couple times, like that, and there it is. Now, sometimes it can get a little tough. Like I said, you might have to have two people. You might have to hit it a couple times, but that's the whole idea. And I've had this off before, so it makes it a little bit easier if you've had it off before. Now, the whole idea here is to spin this all the way off, and I'm hoping I can pull this whole assembly up out of this area right here. I have done it before on other Trailblazers, so we'll see if this holds true to this one too. Let's see. Alright, so we're pretty much off. Alright. So this one here, I think I'm probably going to have to loosen up this shroud also. Let's see if I remember right. Yep. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this little plastic piece here off. These two small bolts. These are 7mm. There's one on this side, one on the other side. Now, if your tabs aren't broken, you'll have another tab right here, but this is part of the headlight assembly here. This is broken, so we got that one out. And we got one over here. Take this out of the way. This piece here actually just gives me a little more working room here to pull this fan up out of there. So we'll get this one out. Alright, this thing out of the way. Alright guys, so at this point I might as well just go ahead and take the radiator cap off. Like I said, the engine's cold. What I need to do is go ahead and loosen up this hose right here. And I've got a bucket under here. I'll probably lose just a little bit of fluid, but on some of these Trailblazers, you just got to pull this plastic piece here out. It's not that big of a deal. You got to pull it out with the fan. So we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to loosen one clamp here. Like I said, we're going to lose a little fluid, but I've got a bucket under there. It's not much. Get this off. Pull this back a little bit. And I'm going to take my pliers here. And I have a secondary clamp. I'm just going to spin this hose around a little bit to make my life a little easier. Like this. Stick it up. That way, nothing will drip out. And like I said, there's a little fluid there, but I'm catching it on the bottom. No problem. And the only other thing we got to do is loosen up these two bolts right here. They are 10mm. Get them out of the way. There's one over there and one on this side. I'm just going to let the camera roll and let the dog bark in the background. Nothing I can do about that. But once we get that out, then we can pull this whole unit up and get that fan clutch out of there. And let's see if I take this little itty bitty one here. This should take this right out. This out. I was going to shoot it on my regular camera, but I started shooting on my video, the video on the cell phone, and I forgot. But I wanted to do it on my regular camera so I can edit it on my computer, but this phone is so much faster. It's amazing. I can have this video up in like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It's amazing how fast it is. But anyway, here's our last bolt. There it is. To get up there, and now this whole thing will kind of move a little bit better. You can see it gives us a little more wiggle room to get this fan out of there. Now be aware, there is a there's a couple transmission lines right there that clip on the back of this. Mine are off, so I mean they just push on and off, so you might want to pop those off, and this will just give you a little more room. And I should be able to get that out of there now, so we'll set the camera back up on the tripod. Alright, so let's see what we can get done now. We can pull this up together a little bit. There's one piece. Seems to help a little bit better. Anyway. There we go. Alright. So the whole thing's going to have to come up again. I'm going to have to get this behind. It's here. There we go. So the whole idea here is to get this shroud past this radiator hose clamp area. Now we can just pull this up out of here. There's one unit. There we go. And unfortunately, this is the only way to get this out. Set it up just like that. Let me grab the tripod and camera. There it is. So wear gloves, because that's plastic is pretty sharp. And here is what we're after. So like I said, I don't know. I think this is bad. Because other Trailblazers and other Fords I've had, when you're sitting in traffic, you can hear this fan kick on and kick off. Not electronically, but you can hear it kind of winding up and winding down, winding up, and when you give it a little bit of throttle and you're sitting in traffic, you can actually hear it. It sounds like it's really blowing air. This one doesn't sound like that. And here's our shroud. It's new. And here are those little clamps on the back that you gotta kind of work around. And when you pull this up, this area right here will hit the back of this right here a little bit. So you gotta have a little patience, kind of push back on it and slide it out and slide up over it, then you can get it out. And be careful with your sensor. So all we gotta do, now we gotta go get the new one and then bolt this and bolt the new one up. The wiring harness is okay. Keep your wiring harnesses. So. Alright, let's go ahead and swap these around. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this one off. Tell you what, guys, this little auto jar, whatever little tool has been great. I've got an impact wrench. Been really good. $49. A lot of interesting, cool tools out on the market nowadays, that's for sure. Now I am going to clean this fan up a little bit, get some of the dirt off on it. It'll make it probably cool a little bit better. So we'll lift this up. And there's the, this one looks fairly new, so I'm not sure, you know, what's going on with it. But anyway, we're going to put a new one on it. And let me go ahead and clean this up real quick, make it look a little bit better. Alright guys, believe it or not, I cleaned it up as best I can get it. Anyway, it's get this lined up here real good, real close. And now we'll go ahead and put our bolts back in. Alright, there's one. Make sure you just start these with your fingers. You can cross thread these. Alright, there's one. I don't know what else would cause this thing to slightly get warm, but when I'm moving in traffic it cools back down, so it has to do with this fan. because I've seen this before. So just because that looks shiny doesn't mean it's working right. So. And a lot of this stuff is aftermarket. By the way, this is another aftermarket part, so you know, who knows. All right, let's go ahead and tighten this down. Ooh. Brought to you by AutoGer. There's the number. There's the part number too. If you guys are interested in seeing this. This is an ion lithium battery. I've never ran it down, which is pretty cool. Oh, there we go. All right, so what I'll do now is torque these by hand, and we'll stick everything back together and wrap this video up. So if you're watching this video, if you like it, let me know where you're watching from and say hello. So let's go ahead and finish up. All right, guys, so now we're ready to put this together, and I'm not going to do any editing, no trick shots. I'm going to show you how I stick this in. First thing we got to do is go ahead and get our shroud set up here. I'm just going to kind of set this in here like this. Now what you want to do is go ahead and make sure this is already in here like this, because this piece right here, this connector, will spin around. And if you get all this in here and you realize you don't see this, well, it's because it's hanging straight down and you're going to have to take this back out. So go ahead and stick this in here like this. You don't even have to put the pins in. There's a secondary clip that will hold that. And now we can go ahead and drop this down in here. So here we go. Here goes nothing. And you gotta have some patience. So take your time at it here. Slide it down. Watch where everything's going. Like this. Slide that down here. And it's going sideways on me, so luckily I caught that in time. Now there she goes, going down, and just like that, it's in. Now all I have to do here is push back on this and get it past this radiator connector here, like that, and surprisingly it went in. So what we have to do is kind of set this in here flush a little bit and go ahead and start spin the fan on like this. Let me see if I can just do this with one. Yeah, it's going on. All right, so I'll just spin this on like this. Get this on for now. And we're in like Flynn. Now all I have to do is go ahead and go on the bottom. On the bottom of this shroud, there are two little nipples that go down in those holes on the bottom support. Just make sure they're straight. It's in. And right up here on the top, make sure that's in. And I think we got a winner. No binding. And that's about it, guys. So what I'll do off camera here, I'll check on the bottom, make sure that the bottom of the shroud is in, the bottom support all right, and we'll wrap this video up. Hey guys, I went one step more for you guys. There's what I'm talking about. See that pin right there, plastic nipple? It goes in this right here, and over here on the driver's side you got one right there. So just get them down here, verify that those are in before you tighten up your bolts on the top. This ensures that this shroud is sitting really flush against this radiator, and you won't have any reasons why the fan is not pulling enough air through the radiator to keep that engine cool. And we'll go ahead and pour a bucket out. Yeah, we lost a little bit. Not a big deal. I'll just filter it and we'll put it back in. So all I have to do now is go ahead, put a few screws in, and what you can do at this point, since the fan is already on, spin it, you know, verify that it's not hitting anything, no binding. You go ahead and put your wrench back on here like this, and take your hammer and just give it a quick couple taps to the right clockwise, and that should keep it tight, because when the engine starts it's going to spin in that direction and lock that nut down there for you anyway. So alright, so let's go ahead and put a few bolts in here and wrap this video up. Alright, so everything's hooked up. We got a wire hooked up here, get everything all back together, verified all this is together. Make sure on the back of the shroud there's a little tab right here. You're not going to be able to see it now, but it's like a little hook that goes down. Make sure that's in there, because that puts that shroud flush against the radiator. And hoses are back on. We got fluid back in it. We filtered that. Wasn't a whole lot. I'm going to give this here one more quick tap. Make sure it Should be no problems, and it is not recommended to put any thread locker on this. If you put thread locker on there, you may have a problem getting it back off, so don't put any thread locker on there. Alright, so all we got to do now is take it out. I'm going to run the air conditioner, sit in traffic for a little bit, and see what our temperature gauge does. And if it doesn't come up in that fan, I hear it actually working a little bit better, then I know we have fixed our problem. So don't know if this was bad or not, but I can turn this pretty easy with my hand here. So I don't know, we'll see. All right, so let's take this thing out for a spin and see what we have. All right, guys, so far so good. The temperature gauge is standing right in the middle. Now, when I worked on these gauges a year ago, when I first got this, it had a bunch of lights out. I don't think I got that hand exactly where it should be. The hand should probably be a little to the left, just a little bit, but it's right where it should be. Now, before, it would actually heat up pretty good there. It would almost go up to the red if I would sit still with the air conditioner along on a hot day, but not today. It's right in the middle where it should be, so I may have to adjust that hand a little bit. And also, we'll go out here and pop the hood open. Yes, it's about 90 degrees out here today, and I can actually hear the fan now blowing air, sucking it in. If I can get the hood open real quick. I can feel air, lots of air coming through there. You can see that plastic, that paper blowing. I can feel the air really getting pushed through that radiator, so that probably took care of the problem. I don't think I'm going to have any more issues. So, but you can see that fan really spinning now. Before it wouldn't do that, it would just barely turn when it got warm. And which is strange, I never had any check engine lights for that fan being bad. So, if you have a little overheating problem, you might want to check your fan. So. Lots of hot air coming out of there, that's for sure. So I guess this is a wrap, guys. If the video helped you out and you liked it, say hello and give me a thumbs up, and let me know where you're watching from, like I said earlier. And until my next video, guys, I will see you later.